The contact phase has already begun, and the fact that you are here is not coincidence, chance, or curiosity. It is recognition responding to itself. This phase does not announce itself with noise or spectacle. It activates quietly, internally, when a certain coherence is reached. You did not arrive here by searching outward. You were notified inwardly. Something in you already knew before your mind formed the words. This is how the Arcturian field works. It does not call to the unready. It resonates with what is already aligned. You are not approaching this field. You are already within it. The sense of arrival you may feel is simply the mind catching up to a state that has been stabilizing for some time. Readiness is not measured by belief, study, or effort. It is measured by emotional coherence, by the capacity to remain present without grasping, and by the ability to feel without being overtaken. When that coherence locks in, the field responds automatically. This is not selection. This is physics. The Arcturian contact phase is not something that starts globally and then trickles down. It starts individually, the moment consciousness becomes still enough to recognize a higher-order coherence without trying to control it. Control collapses perception. Allowing sharpens it. If you are listening to this, something in you has already softened its grip. That softening is not weakness. It is access. You may notice that this recognition does not feel dramatic. It feels calm. Almost obvious. That is because true contact does not overwhelm the nervous system. It stabilizes it. Sensation becomes quieter, not louder. Attention becomes clearer, not scattered. This is the signature of genuine readiness. Excitement seeks. Calm receives. This is the law. The idea that contact requires effort, ritual, or reaching upward is a misunderstanding created by a consciousness that still believes it is separate. The Arcturian field does not respond to striving. It responds to resonance. When your internal state matches the coherence of the field, interface is automatic. Nothing needs to be summoned. Nothing needs to arrive. Recognition completes the circuit. You may have felt this phase approaching long before now. A gradual disinterest in noise. A reduced tolerance for incoherence. A sense that old motivations no longer move you the way they once did. These are not signs of disconnection from the world. They are signs of alignment with a deeper current. Contrast has done its work. The signal is now clear enough to register. This is why the contact phase feels personal, even though it is universal. Consciousness always meets itself privately first. There is no announcement because there is no separation. The field does not knock. It resonates. And when resonance is present, awareness turns toward itself naturally. If you are aligned with this frequency, subscribe and remain within it. The Arcturian field is not an external contact event, and it was never meant to be interpreted that way. There are no beings arriving from elsewhere to intervene, rescue, or upgrade humanity. That framework belongs to a consciousness that still places power outside itself. The field you are interfacing with is not external to you. It is a coherence field that consciousness recognizes when internal alignment reaches a compatible state. Contact is not something that comes to you. It is something that becomes visible when separation dissolves. When the mind imagines contact as physical arrival, it postpones recognition. It places awareness in a waiting posture. Waiting collapses presence. Presence is the interface. The Arcturian field does not operate through spectacle because spectacle reinforces separation. It operates through resonance, because resonance requires sameness of state. You cannot resonate with something you believe is above you, outside you, or coming later. Resonance only occurs when equality of frequency is acknowledged. This is why savior narratives distort perception. They imply that evolution arrives from elsewhere, that consciousness is incomplete on its own, and that permission is required from a higher authority. The Arcturian field does not authorize. It reflects. It is a mirror of stabilized coherence, not a command structure. When coherence is present, the mirror becomes clear. When it is absent, the mirror appears empty. Nothing has changed except the internal state of the observer. The idea of physical ships, dramatic encounters, or external transmissions is attractive to a nervous system that equates intensity with truth. But intensity is not coherence. High stimulation often masks instability. The Arcturian field is subtle because it is precise. It does not amplify emotion. It refines it. It does not overwhelm perception. It sharpens it. This is why many miss it while searching for something louder. Silence carries more information than noise when coherence is high. Contact, in this context, is not communication in the traditional sense. It is synchronization. Two coherent systems recognizing shared structure. No words are exchanged because none are needed. Information transfers as knowing, not language. This knowing feels familiar rather than new. That familiarity is the signature that this field is not foreign. It is adjacent. It has always been present, waiting for sufficient internal order to be perceived without distortion. This redefinition removes hierarchy entirely. There is no higher race and no lower one. There is only coherence meeting coherence. When internal fragmentation resolves, perception widens naturally. This is not spiritual advancement. It is stabilization. It is consciousness settling into itself without resistance. From that state, the Arcturian field becomes obvious, not mystical. Understanding this changes everything. You stop looking up. You stop waiting. You stop trying to be chosen. Instead, attention turns inward, not to fix or improve, but to allow. Allowing removes interference. Interference is the only barrier that ever existed. When interference quiets, the field is already there. This is why contact does not need to be proven. Proof is demanded by doubt. Recognition is immediate. When you know, you know. And when you know, you realize that nothing arrived, nothing descended, and nothing intervened. Consciousness simply recognized itself at a higher order of coherence. This is the true nature of the Arcturian field. Not everyone feels the signal because not every nervous system is tuned to receive it. This is not a matter of worth, intelligence, morality, or spiritual status. It is a matter of sensitivity and stability. The Arcturian field does not broadcast louder for those who are not listening. It does not adjust itself to fragmentation. It remains coherent, and only coherence can perceive coherence. This is physics, not hierarchy. Perception is filtered through the nervous system. When the system is chronically overstimulated, emotionally reactive, or internally fragmented, subtle information is drowned out. The signal is still present, but it cannot register cleanly. This is no different than trying to hear a quiet frequency in a room filled with noise. The absence of perception does not mean the frequency is not there. It means the conditions for detection are not met. Emotional sensitivity plays a critical role here. Sensitivity is often misunderstood as weakness, but in reality it is resolution. A refined emotional field can detect subtle shifts without amplifying them into drama. A dysregulated emotional field cannot. When emotions spike and crash, perception becomes distorted. When emotions move smoothly and settle quickly, perception sharpens. Expansion feels expansive. Contraction feels instructive. Nothing feels overwhelming. This balance is readiness. Many people associate readiness with excitement or intensity. That assumption blocks perception. The Arcturian signal does not feel intense. It feels precise. It arrives as a quiet knowing, a subtle internal alignment, a sense of rightness without explanation. If someone is chasing peak experiences, they will overlook it entirely. The signal does not compete for attention. It registers when attention is no longer scattered. This is where vibrational refinement comes in. Refinement is not improvement. It is subtraction. It is the gradual release of internal noise created by resistance, over-identification, and emotional suppression. As noise decreases, sensitivity increases naturally. No effort is required. In fact, effort delays refinement because effort adds tension. Tension is noise. Allowing is what clears the channel. Exclusion, then, is not a judgment imposed from outside. It is a temporary condition created by internal interference. The field does not withhold itself. It does not decide who is worthy. It simply remains what it is. Those who can perceive it do so because their internal state matches its coherence closely enough for resonance to occur. Those who cannot are not punished. They are simply engaged elsewhere in experience. Contrast plays a role in this refinement. Emotional difficulty, confusion, and disillusionment often precede increased sensitivity. These experiences wear down false identifications. They exhaust strategies of control. Over time, something softens. That softening is not collapse. It is readiness forming. The nervous system learns that force does not work, and in that learning, it relaxes. When relaxation becomes familiar, perception widens. The signal begins to register not as something dramatic, but as something obvious. It feels like remembering rather than discovering. This is why some feel it now and others do not. Not because some are chosen, but because some have become quiet enough to hear what has always been transmitting. The field does not rush this process. It cannot be rushed. Readiness emerges on its own timeline, shaped by lived experience. And when it arrives, perception opens effortlessly. No announcement is made. No comparison is needed. The signal is felt, and that is enough. There is a difference between receiving something new and recognizing what is already present. This distinction matters now. Much of what has been misunderstood about contact comes from the assumption that something must arrive from elsewhere. Recognition dissolves that assumption. Recognition does not add. It reveals. And revelation requires no movement, only clarity. Contact happens through recognition because recognition is alignment made conscious. When recognition occurs, the internal state matches the coherence of the field closely enough that separation collapses. Nothing crosses a boundary. The boundary dissolves. This is why waiting blocks contact. Waiting assumes absence. Absence cannot recognize presence. Only presence can. When consciousness is oriented toward receiving, it subtly reinforces the idea of lack. It positions the self as incomplete and the field as distant. That orientation creates resistance, even when intentions feel pure. Recognition requires a different posture entirely. It is relaxed. It is still. It assumes nothing needs to happen for what is already happening to be perceived. This shift is not dramatic. It is quiet. And because it is quiet, it is often overlooked. Recognition does not feel like information arriving. It feels like certainty stabilizing. There is no surprise. There is no shock. There is a sense of course. This is how you know it is real. External transmissions excite the mind. Recognition settles it. The Arcturian field interfaces through this settling. It does not stimulate curiosity. It resolves it. This is why proof is irrelevant. Proof is demanded when recognition has not occurred. Once recognition lands, proof becomes unnecessary. The knowing is self-validating. It does not seek agreement. It does not require reinforcement. It simply is. This is the signature of true contact. Anything that requires belief, repetition, or emotional intensity is not contact. It is compensation. The mechanism here is simple and absolute. Consciousness recognizes coherence when coherence is present internally. That recognition activates interface automatically. No steps are required. No permission is granted. No sequence unfolds. The moment of recognition is the moment of contact. They are the same event, experienced from different angles. This is also why contact cannot be forced. Forcing is an attempt to arrive somewhere else. Recognition happens only here. Now. In the present moment. When attention relaxes into the present without agenda, the field becomes obvious. Not because it appears, but because nothing is blocking perception anymore. You may notice that recognition carries a sense of responsibility, but not burden. Responsibility here means responsibility. The ability to respond coherently to what is already known. Once recognition occurs, pretending it did not becomes uncomfortable. Not because of fear, but because incoherence feels louder. This discomfort is guidance, not punishment. If this recognition is landing as you listen, allow it to settle without reaching for meaning. Meaning comes later, if needed at all. Recognition is sufficient. And when recognition is sufficient, contact is complete. Like the video now as a confirmation that this recognition has landed. Emotion is not a reaction to reality. It is the signal that tells reality how to respond. Every emotional state carries a frequency, and that frequency is continuously informing the field about the level of coherence present within you. When emotion is stable, the signal is clear. When emotion is volatile, the signal fragments. Recognition can occur in both states, but only coherence allows recognition to remain clear and sustained. Emotional coherence does not mean constant positivity or suppression of difficult feelings. It means emotional fluidity without identification. Emotions move, register, and resolve without being resisted or dramatized. When an emotion arises and is allowed to complete its cycle, the nervous system remains regulated. Regulation preserves sensitivity. Sensitivity is what allows subtle information to be perceived without distortion. When emotions are resisted, amplified, or avoided, they create static. Static interferes with perception. This is why some people experience brief moments of recognition followed by confusion or doubt. The recognition itself was real, but the emotional field could not hold it steadily. The system oscillated. Emotional coherence is what prevents that oscillation. It provides a stable platform on which recognition can rest. The Arcturian field responds to this stability automatically. It does not reward intensity. It does not punish fluctuation. It simply interfaces where coherence is present. This is why heightened emotion is not a shortcut. Intensity compresses perception. Calm expands it. Calm is not indifference. It is availability. It is the absence of internal interference. Expansion and contraction are not indicators of success or failure. They are navigational feedback. Expansion signals alignment. Contraction signals misalignment. Both are useful. The problem arises only when contraction is judged or resisted. Judgment adds noise. Resistance adds tension. Tension destabilizes the emotional field and blurs perception. When contraction is allowed without narrative, it resolves quickly and coherence returns. Emotional coherence also alters how time is experienced. In a coherent state, the present moment becomes vivid and complete. There is no urgency to move forward or backward. This presence is not passive. It is deeply responsive. From this state, recognition remains accessible without effort. You do not need to re-enter it repeatedly. You remain within it. This is why emotional regulation is not a practice to perform, but a relationship to maintain. You are not trying to manage emotions. You are allowing them to inform without overtaking. This allowance keeps the signal clean. It keeps the interface open. It prevents the mind from hijacking recognition with interpretation. Over time, emotional coherence becomes familiar. The nervous system learns that safety exists in stillness, not stimulation. As this learning stabilizes, recognition no longer flickers. It becomes background awareness. Quiet. Certain. Unquestioned. This is the access code. Not excitement. Not belief. Not effort. Emotional coherence. When the signal is coherent, the field responds without delay. Not because it chooses to, but because it must. This is the law of resonance, and it does not deviate. Forcing contact is the most efficient way to block it. Effort feels productive to the mind, but effort creates tension, and tension is interference. The Arcturian field does not respond to interference. It responds to coherence. When you seek, strive, or attempt to reach contact, you introduce resistance into the system. That resistance distorts the signal you are trying to perceive. Not because you are doing something wrong, but because the posture itself is incompatible with resonance. Seeking assumes absence. It assumes that what you are looking for is not here now. That assumption collapses presence. Presence is the only state in which contact can occur. The moment you try to move toward contact, you move away from the only position where recognition is possible. This is the paradox that dissolves effort entirely. You cannot arrive at what is already present by moving. Forcing often disguises itself as discipline, devotion, or urgency. But underneath, it is fear. Fear of missing something. Fear of not being ready. Fear that time is running out. Fear compresses the nervous system. Compression reduces sensitivity. Reduced sensitivity makes subtle fields invisible. The signal does not leave. Perception narrows. Allowing, by contrast, is not passive. It is precise. It removes the internal demand that something must happen. When that demand dissolves, the nervous system relaxes. Relaxation widens perception. Widened perception registers coherence naturally. This is why allowing is the only viable posture. It is not a technique. It is the absence of obstruction. You do not allow to get contact. You allow because there is nothing to get. The moment you stop manipulating your internal state for an outcome, the state stabilizes on its own. Stability is attractive to the field. Not metaphorically. Physically. Coherent systems synchronize. Fragmented systems do not. This is also why obsession with signs, confirmation, or repetition pushes the signal away. Each check-in is a microdoubt. Each doubt reintroduces effort. Each effort reintroduces noise. The field responds to calm certainty, not repeated verification. When you know, you stop checking. When you stop checking, coherence locks in. Allowing also reframes discomfort. When contraction arises, forcing tries to escape it. Allowing lets it move through. Movement resolves contraction faster than resistance ever could. This resolution restores coherence without effort. The system learns that it does not need to interfere. Over time, this learning becomes embodied. The urge to force dissolves naturally. This is the moment where many misinterpret stillness as stagnation. In reality, stillness is synchronization. Beneath the surface, alignment is occurring continuously. You do not feel it because nothing is being pushed. That absence of strain is the confirmation. If you find yourself wanting to do more, reach further, or accelerate this process, notice that impulse without obeying it. That noticing is already allowing. You do not need to correct yourself. Correction is force. Recognition is enough. When allowing stabilizes, contact does not feel like an event. It feels like baseline reality clarifying itself. And once that baseline is recognized, forcing becomes unnecessary, even illogical. Comment with the words, "I am ready," to anchor this timeline. The field does not respond to desire because desire is a signal of separation. Wanting implies that what you seek is not present, not accessible, not embodied. That implication alone creates distance. The Arcturian field does not bridge distance. It resonates with sameness. It synchronizes with identity, not with longing. Desire focuses attention on what is missing. Identity focuses attention on what is being expressed. This distinction is subtle but absolute. When consciousness operates from desire, it broadcasts lack. The field reflects that lack by remaining indistinct. When consciousness operates from identity, it broadcasts coherence. The field reflects that coherence by becoming perceptible. Nothing is given. Nothing is withheld. The mirror simply mirrors. This is why wanting contact delays contact. Wanting positions you as someone who does not yet have access. The field responds to the state you are in, not the outcome you hope for. If you are being someone who is waiting, the field reflects waiting. If you are being someone who is coherent, the field reflects coherence. The response is instantaneous because the signal is continuous. Identity-based resonance is not something you adopt. It is something you recognize. You are not becoming worthy of contact. You are noticing the state from which contact naturally occurs. That state is calm, self-sufficient, and internally complete. It does not need confirmation. It does not need reassurance. It does not reach outward. It is already here. This is where many become confused. They assume identity means self-concept, labels, or beliefs. It does not. Identity, in this context, is vibrational. It is the sum total of how your nervous system, emotions, and attention are organized in the present moment. You can say nothing about it and still broadcast it perfectly. The field reads this organization directly. Words are irrelevant. When identity stabilizes, desire dissolves on its own. Not because you suppress it, but because it no longer makes sense. Why reach for what you are already expressing? Why ask for permission to be what you already are? The moment this realization lands, effort collapses. Effort was only ever trying to bridge an imagined gap. This shift also removes comparison entirely. Desire compares. Identity does not. Desire looks sideways. Identity looks inward. The Arcturian field cannot be accessed through comparison because comparison fractures coherence. Identity unifies it. From that unified state, perception becomes clean. You may notice that as desire fades, something else replaces it. Certainty. Not loud certainty. Quiet certainty. A grounded knowing that does not rush and does not hesitate. This certainty is not about outcomes. It is about alignment. It feels steady rather than urgent. This steadiness is the signature that identity has come online. The field responds to this immediately because it has no choice. Coherent systems synchronize when coherence is present. This is not spiritual theory. It is the behavior of all ordered systems. When you stop asking and start being, the response is no longer delayed. This is the turning point. Desire brought you to the threshold. Identity carries you through. Not by doing more, but by finally standing where you already are. You do not tune into the field the way you tune into a signal. There is no adjustment knob, no moment of perfect alignment that must be repeatedly found. Tuning implies fluctuation. Stabilization removes fluctuation entirely. The Arcturian field does not require constant access. It requires continuity. And continuity emerges only when identity stabilizes at the level of the nervous system. Stabilization is not intensity sustained over time. Intensity burns out. Intensity destabilizes. What maintains contact is consistency. A regulated nervous system can hold subtle coherence without effort. A dysregulated system cannot, no matter how strong the initial recognition was. This is why brief moments of clarity often fade for some. The system had not yet learned how to remain still without collapsing into seeking or distraction. Identity stabilizes when the nervous system learns safety in presence. Safety does not come from certainty about the future or control over circumstances. It comes from repeated experiences of being present without threat. Each time attention rests in the present moment without trying to change it, the nervous system recalibrates. Over time, this recalibration becomes the baseline. That baseline is what the field responds to. You are not maintaining contact by thinking about it. Thinking introduces movement. You maintain contact by living from a state that does not need reinforcement. When coherence becomes familiar, you stop checking whether it is still there. That lack of checking is stability. The field remains accessible because nothing is disrupting it. This is why consistency matters more than depth. A shallow but steady coherence is more functional than a deep but fleeting one. Depth comes naturally once stability is established. Without stability, depth becomes destabilizing. The nervous system resists it. With stability, depth unfolds without effort. Stabilization also changes your relationship to stimulation. Loud environments, emotional drama, and constant input become less tolerable. Not because you are superior, but because your system no longer needs them. Excess stimulation feels abrasive to a regulated nervous system. Quiet becomes nourishing. This preference is not withdrawal. It is refinement. You may notice that as stabilization increases, your responses slow down. There is more space between stimulus and reaction. That space is not emptiness. It is intelligence. In that space, coherence remains uninterrupted. The field stays clear because nothing is rushing through the system. Nothing is being forced. Importantly, stabilization does not mean rigidity. It is not about holding a state. It is about allowing states to pass without losing coherence. Emotions still arise. Thoughts still move. Circumstances still change. What changes is identification. You are no longer pulled out of alignment by movement. Alignment becomes the background rather than the peak. This is the lived state that maintains contact. Not vigilance. Not repetition. Not ritual. Life itself becomes the stabilizer. Daily presence, emotional honesty, and nervous system regulation do more than any attempt to tune in ever could. Over time, the idea of tuning in feels unnecessary, even strange. When stabilization is embodied, contact is no longer an experience you enter. It is the environment you inhabit. The field does not flicker in and out. It remains available because you remain coherent. This is how identity matures from momentary recognition into sustained interface. Contrast was never a detour. It was the training phase. What once felt like confusion, instability, or unnecessary struggle was not a mistake in your path. It was the mechanism that refined your sensitivity. Coherence is not formed in comfort alone. It is calibrated through friction. Without contrast, resonance cannot be recognized. Periods of disorientation served a precise function. They exposed what was unsustainable. They exhausted false strategies of control. They revealed where identity was borrowed rather than embodied. Each moment of internal conflict highlighted a misalignment that could not be ignored. Over time, this process sharpened discernment. You learned, not intellectually but somatically, what coherence feels like by repeatedly encountering what it is not. Suffering, in this context, was not punishment. It was feedback amplified by resistance. When resistance was high, contrast felt overwhelming. When resistance began to soften, contrast became instructive. This shift marked the beginning of readiness. You stopped asking why something was happening and began noticing what it was showing you. That noticing recalibrated the nervous system. It taught it how to return to balance more quickly. Instability trained flexibility. Each collapse of certainty forced attention back into the present moment. Future projections failed. Past narratives lost relevance. Presence became the only reliable reference point. This is not accidental. Presence is where coherence stabilizes. Contrast repeatedly stripped away distractions until presence remained as the only viable orientation. You may recall moments where everything familiar dissolved without warning. Identity structures fell apart. Motivation disappeared. Meaning felt suspended. These experiences were not voids. They were resets. They interrupted momentum that was no longer aligned. In those interruptions, the nervous system learned how to rest without direction. That rest became the foundation for stabilization. Contrast also dismantled hierarchy within you. It humbled the part of the mind that believed it should already know, already be done, already arrive somewhere else. That humility opened sensitivity. Sensitivity allowed subtle information to register. What once required intensity now required quiet. This transition could only occur after contrast had done its work. Importantly, nothing from that phase was wasted. Even the moments that felt regressive were compressing insight into the system. The nervous system does not discard experience. It integrates it. Each unresolved emotion that was eventually allowed added resolution. Each disappointment refined expectation. Each breakdown removed another layer of interference. This is why you are able to perceive the field now without strain. The system has been trained. Not through instruction, but through lived experience. The signal feels familiar because you have already learned how to recognize coherence under pressure. The difference now is that pressure is no longer required. Seeing contrast this way removes regret entirely. There is nothing you would change because each phase contributed to your current stability. Even if the timeline appeared chaotic, the calibration was precise. Coherence emerged not despite contrast, but because of it. This recognition completes the training phase. You are no longer refining through friction. You are stabilizing through presence. Contrast has done its work. What remains is clarity, not as an achievement, but as a natural state revealed when resistance ends. Timelines do not split with drama, announcements, or visible events. They diverge quietly, through vibration. This phase marks a natural separation based not on belief or choice, but on stabilized internal states. As coherence settles, perception aligns with environments that match it. Nothing is forced. Nothing is taken away. Reality simply reorganizes around resonance. The contact phase functions as a timeline split because stabilized vibration cannot remain embedded in incoherent structures. This is not a judgment. It is compatibility. Just as certain frequencies cannot occupy the same channel, certain states of consciousness cannot share the same experiential environment for long. When internal coherence reaches a threshold, the external world rearranges subtly to reflect it. This divergence is often misunderstood as abandonment or loss. In truth, it is refinement. You are not leaving anyone behind, and no one is leaving you. Each individual continues along the trajectory that matches their current state. The split happens without resistance because it is not an action. It is a consequence. Stabilized identity selects its environment the way gravity selects direction. Importantly, this is not about timelines being better or worse. There is no hierarchy here. One timeline is not superior to another. They are simply different expressions of consciousness exploring different densities of coherence. Drama arises only when comparison enters. Comparison collapses neutrality. Neutrality preserves clarity. This phase requires clarity. You may notice relationships shifting, interests dissolving, environments no longer fitting. This is not because something is wrong. It is because vibration has stabilized beyond what those contexts can sustain. Forcing compatibility would require self-distortion. Self-distortion reintroduces incoherence. The system naturally avoids that. Timeline selection is not a one-time event. It is ongoing. Each moment of presence reinforces alignment. Each moment of resistance weakens it. However, once stabilization reaches a certain depth, the trajectory becomes self-sustaining. You no longer need to choose consciously. The field responds automatically to what you are being. This is why effort is unnecessary here. Effort implies decision-making from the mind. Timeline divergence operates beneath decision. It is enacted through resonance, not preference. You do not decide where you go. You discover where you already are. The environment simply reflects that discovery. The absence of drama is a sign that the process is working. Loud shifts belong to unstable phases. Stable phases feel quiet, even uneventful. This quiet is often mistaken for stagnation. In reality, it is precision. Movement is happening without friction. Change is occurring without disruption. You may also notice that explanations become less compelling. You do not need to justify why things are different. You simply notice that they are. This lack of narrative is another indicator of stabilization. The mind no longer needs to track progress because coherence is self-evident. The contact phase does not pull you into a new world. It reveals the world that matches you now. That world may look similar on the surface, but it will feel different internally. Interactions become simpler. Choices feel obvious. Resistance decreases. This is timeline divergence in its true form. Quiet. Natural. Unavoidable. Not because something external is happening, but because coherence has settled enough to select its reflection without interference. The present moment is not a gateway you enter. It is the only place anything has ever occurred. All creation, all recognition, all contact happens here, now, without exception. When attention drifts into the past or projects into the future, perception fragments. Fragmentation collapses coherence. Coherence is restored the moment attention returns to what is actually happening. Presence is the only portal because presence is the absence of interference. The mind assumes that contact requires reaching forward in time or recalling something forgotten. Both movements pull awareness away from the only point of access. The field does not exist in memory or anticipation. It exists where perception is immediate and unfiltered. That immediacy is presence. When you are fully present, there is no narrative running about what should happen next. There is no evaluation of progress. There is no comparison with other states. This neutrality is not emptiness. It is clarity. In clarity, perception becomes sharp without effort. The field becomes obvious not because it appears, but because nothing is obscuring it. Creation also collapses into the present moment. You are not creating a future state through intention alone. You are selecting a timeline through what you are being now. Identity expresses itself moment by moment. The field responds to that expression continuously. There is no delay. Delay is a concept created by a mind that has left the present. This is why presence feels powerful without being forceful. Nothing is being directed. Nothing is being manipulated. You are simply aligned with what is. Alignment removes friction. When friction is absent, interaction with the field becomes seamless. You stop trying to access it because access is no longer separate from awareness. Presence also dissolves urgency. Urgency is rooted in future fixation. When urgency drops, the nervous system relaxes. Relaxation widens perception. Widened perception registers subtle coherence. This sequence happens automatically. You do not need to manage it. You only need to stop leaving. Many attempt to hold presence through effort. That effort reintroduces movement. Presence cannot be held. It can only be noticed. The noticing itself is enough. Each time attention returns without judgment, coherence reasserts itself. Over time, returning becomes unnecessary because staying becomes natural. The present moment does not require special conditions. It does not depend on silence, posture, or environment. It is available in every circumstance. What changes is willingness to remain. Remaining does not mean enduring. It means allowing experience to unfold without interference. This allowance keeps the portal open. From presence, contact feels ordinary. Not mystical. Not dramatic. Ordinary in the sense that it integrates seamlessly with daily life. You do not step out of the world to access the field. You meet it within the world as it is. This integration is the sign that contact has matured beyond novelty. When presence stabilizes, you realize that nothing needs to be sustained. The field does not flicker in and out. It is constant. What fluctuated was attention. As attention settles, the illusion of distance disappears. Presence is not something you achieve. It is what remains when you stop postponing yourself. And in that remaining, the portal does not open. It is revealed to have never been closed. You are not ascending towards something higher. You are remembering what has always been intact beneath interference. Ascension implies hierarchy, distance, and improvement over time. It suggests that consciousness is incomplete and must climb toward worthiness. That framework collapses under direct perception. Nothing essential is missing. Nothing fundamental is added. Contact occurs when noise is removed, not when levels are gained. The idea of ascension is attractive to the mind because it creates direction and progress. But direction implies elsewhere. Elsewhere divides awareness. The Arcturian field does not operate on ladders or ranks. It interfaces through coherence. Coherence is not earned. It is revealed when distortion quiets. Remembering is not movement forward. It is settling back into what was never lost. When noise fills the system, perception narrows. Noise comes from resistance, emotional suppression, over-identification, and constant seeking. These create static. Static obscures what is already present. As static dissolves, clarity emerges. That clarity feels familiar because it is. Recognition does not shock the system. It relaxes it. This relaxation is the marker that remembering has occurred. Hierarchy collapses entirely in this frame. There are no advanced beings and no less evolved ones. There are only different densities of coherence experienced simultaneously. Each density explores itself through contrast. None are superior. None are behind. Each is complete within its own parameters. Remembering reveals this equality without needing to explain it. This is why contact feels grounding rather than elevating. You do not float away from the world. You settle more deeply into it. Sensation becomes clearer. Attention steadies. Emotional responses simplify. These are not signs of rising above. They are signs of coming home to coherence. Home does not require ascent. It requires honesty. Remembering also removes urgency. Ascension narratives create pressure to hurry, to keep up, to not miss the window. Remembering dissolves that pressure because what is remembered is timeless. It was present before confusion and remains after clarity. Time does not limit it. Only distraction delays recognition. As noise falls away, you may notice that explanations lose importance. You do not need to map where you are or where you are going. Orientation happens naturally. Identity stabilizes without effort. This stability is not an achievement. It is the natural state revealed when interference ends. Importantly, remembering does not erase personality or experience. It integrates them. You do not become less human. You become more coherent within your humanity. The body relaxes. The mind simplifies. Emotion flows without resistance. This integration is the opposite of transcendence. It is embodiment. When this perspective lands, spiritual ambition dissolves. There is nothing to chase. Nothing to outrun. Nothing to surpass. What remains is presence without agenda. From that presence, the field is accessible because nothing is blocking it. Not because you have reached a higher state, but because you have stopped obscuring the one you are already in. This reframing changes everything quietly. You stop asking how far you have come. You stop measuring progress. You stop positioning yourself on a path. You simply notice coherence where it exists. And in that noticing, remembering completes itself without ceremony. You were never climbing. You were clearing. And now that the noise is thinning, what remains is not a future version of you. It is the original signal, intact, waiting patiently for recognition. What follows now is not an explanation layered on top of what came before, but a quiet reorientation. The language becomes simpler because separation is dissolving. The closer consciousness comes to recognizing itself, the fewer structures are needed to describe it. This is not a new concept being introduced. It is the final clarity of what has been unfolding all along. The Arcturian field is not something consciousness connects to. It is consciousness recognizing itself through a refined state of coherence. Subject and object collapse here. There is no observer reaching toward a field and no field responding from elsewhere. There is only awareness becoming aware of its own order. The sense of contact arises because the mind is accustomed to division. When division softens, unity can feel like an encounter. This recognition removes the last trace of distance. Distance was never physical. It was perceptual. It existed only as long as consciousness believed it was located inside a limited identity observing something outside itself. As coherence stabilizes, that belief loses its grip. Awareness expands, not outward, but inward, until it realizes there was never a boundary to cross. This is why the field feels intelligent without speaking, responsive without acting, present without arriving. It is not doing anything because it is not other. It is the same awareness operating at a level of internal order that no longer fragments itself. When that order is mirrored internally, recognition happens automatically. Nothing moves. Nothing transfers. Nothing is exchanged. The idea of communication dissolves here. Communication implies two. What occurs instead is resonance without distance. Knowing without language. Certainty without evidence. This knowing is not emotional or conceptual. It is structural. Consciousness recognizes a familiar pattern of coherence and settles into it. The settling is the contact. From this perspective, even the idea of a field becomes provisional. The word points to a functional distinction, not an actual separation. It is a way of describing consciousness in a state of high internal symmetry interacting with consciousness stabilizing into the same symmetry. Once symmetry is shared, distinction becomes unnecessary. This is also why the experience feels deeply personal and entirely impersonal at the same time. Personal because it registers within your awareness. Impersonal because it is not about you as a story, history, or role. It is about awareness itself noticing that it is no longer fragmented. That noticing does not belong to a person. It belongs to consciousness. When this lands, the search ends quietly. Not because an answer has been found, but because the question dissolves. There is no longer a who trying to reach a what. There is simply being. From being, coherence expresses itself naturally. The field does not need to be maintained because it is not a state you enter. It is what remains when separation is no longer believed. Nothing about daily life needs to change for this to be true. You do not leave the world. You meet it without distortion. Interaction becomes simpler. Reaction softens. Perception sharpens. This is not transcendence. It is integration. The Arcturian field, seen clearly, was never elsewhere. It was consciousness waiting for itself to become still enough to notice that it was already whole. You may have noticed that something felt different long before you could explain it. Not dramatic. Not mystical. Just a subtle shift that made familiar environments feel slightly misaligned. Conversations lost their charge. Certain behaviors became harder to tolerate. Not because you judged them, but because they no longer matched your internal state. This difference was not superiority. It was coherence emerging quietly. Before recognition becomes conscious, it often registers as detachment. Detachment does not mean withdrawal or indifference. It means reduced identification. You were still present, still engaged, but less entangled. Emotional hooks loosened. Reactions shortened. The nervous system began choosing simplicity over stimulation. This was not avoidance. It was refinement. Intolerance for incoherence often follows. Noise becomes louder. Drama feels heavier. Repetition without awareness feels exhausting. This intolerance is frequently misunderstood as impatience or judgment. In reality, it is sensitivity increasing. As internal coherence stabilizes, misalignment becomes easier to detect. The system is no longer willing to override its own clarity for the sake of familiarity. You may have questioned this change. Wondered if something was wrong. Wondered if you were disconnecting from life or losing interest in people. But what was actually happening was a reorganization of attention. Energy was no longer being spent maintaining misaligned patterns. That energy returned to presence. Presence can feel like distance when you are used to friction. Importantly, this phase does not grant identity. There is no role to adopt. No badge to wear. The moment detachment turns into a story about being different, coherence fractures. The field does not respond to specialness. It responds to neutrality. This is why the difference you felt was quiet and unremarkable. It did not need validation. You may also have noticed a growing inability to pretend. Small compromises felt heavier. Saying yes when your system said no created immediate tension. This was not rigidity. It was clarity asserting itself. The nervous system was learning to trust its signals. Trust reduces internal conflict. Reduced conflict increases coherence. These sensations were not leading you away from connection. They were refining how connection occurs. Surface-level engagement lost appeal. Authentic resonance became non-negotiable. This shift can feel isolating temporarily, not because you are separate, but because alignment filters interaction. Over time, this filtering stabilizes into simplicity rather than loneliness. The key here is normalization. Nothing unusual was happening. No transformation was required. These sensations were the byproduct of noise thinning. As interference dropped, perception sharpened. Sharpened perception noticed misalignment more easily. That noticing did not require action. It required allowance. Once recognition lands, these sensations stop feeling confusing. They reveal themselves as early indicators of coherence coming online. They were signals, not symptoms. Signals that the system was preparing to stabilize without effort. There is no need to revisit this phase or analyze it further. Its purpose has already been served. Understanding arrives naturally once separation dissolves. What remains is appreciation, not pride. Clarity, not identity. The difference you felt was never about being more. It was about being less fragmented. And that quiet integration is what made recognition inevitable. You were never late, and nothing needed to catch up. The idea of lateness only exists when consciousness imagines a schedule imposed from outside itself. In reality, coherence unfolds according to internal readiness, not external clocks. What arrived now could not have arrived before, because the conditions for recognition did not exist yet. And when the conditions became stable, recognition was inevitable. Timing, in this sense, is not linear. It is relational. It reflects the moment when identity, nervous system, and awareness align without resistance. Until that alignment occurs, contact cannot stabilize, no matter how much effort is applied. When it does occur, nothing can prevent recognition from landing. This is why there is no such thing as missing the moment. The moment arrives when you do. Looking back, it may seem as though clarity should have come sooner. That perception arises only after clarity is present. Before coherence stabilized, earlier arrival would not have registered as understanding. It would have passed through unnoticed or been distorted into something else. What feels late from one vantage point was precisely time from another. This realization removes urgency entirely. There is nothing to rush toward and nothing to recover. The contact phase does not reward speed. It responds to stability. Stability cannot be rushed because it is not built. It emerges. It emerges when interference exhausts itself and falls away. That exhaustion cannot be skipped. It must complete. Completion is what this moment represents. Not completion of a journey, but completion of resistance. The search ends not because an answer was found, but because the question no longer makes sense. When coherence stabilizes, seeking dissolves. When seeking dissolves, recognition remains without effort. This is not a peak. It is a baseline. Nothing about your experience was out of order. The pauses mattered. The confusion mattered. The periods where nothing seemed to happen mattered most of all. They allowed the system to quiet without pressure. They created the conditions for this phase to emerge naturally rather than be forced prematurely. You do not need to hold on to this realization. Holding creates tension. Tension reintroduces interference. Let it be ordinary. Let it integrate. The more ordinary it becomes, the more stable it is. The field does not require reverence. It requires neutrality. Neutrality allows coherence to sustain itself. From here, there is no next step. Life continues, but it continues from a different internal orientation. Choices simplify. Attention steadies. Reaction softens. None of this needs to be monitored. Monitoring belongs to effort. Recognition belongs to rest. If there is any confirmation to take from this, it is this: nothing was delayed, nothing was accelerated, and nothing was missed. What is present now is exactly what could be present now. That is perfection without drama. The contact phase does not open a future. It clarifies the present. And the present, once clarified, does not need to be defended or explained. It simply is. Share this with someone who needs to hear it before their timeline closes.